Philip Kennedy Johnson continues the Superman family vs. Metallo family this issue, building off his awesome setup from the last 2 issues and revealing more ties to his amazing Warworld saga. Kennedy's knack for tying together his storylines, and even storylines he's not writing like Joshua Williamson's Superman ongoing, and having it all be cohesive and consistent, which given the scope of these stories is not an easy task, yet he manages to do it like it is nothing. Jonathan's growth as a character is wonderfully shown off this issue, and again, much like through Tom Taylor's series, he's learning how to do things his parents have done before in his own way and make it his own, which is a big step up from when the character was just constantly fighting kid versions of his father's villains and not really learning anything from issue to issue. My theory about Metallo also eventually teaming with Superman or turning to Superman to help save Tracy is also gaining more credence, especially since it's revealed that Tracy that we have been seeing throughout these issues isn't actually Tracy at all, and someone just using her image to manipulate John Corbin. The way Johnson has been doling out the plot regarding him and his changing body and mind and what's going on with Tracy has been great, and as I said before, the ties to Warworld saga are so cool, and I'm glad we are continuing to explore the lore he set up in that plot, and it's not just being left alone and being disregarded in any way, it's being built on and made really relevant. Rafa Sandoval's action-orientated artwork continues this issue with more fantastic super family sequences. What I really loved about the issue was the body horror stuff he was doing with Metallo, continuing on Riccardo Federici's work in that department to give us a fantastically horrifying version of Metallo, and also utilizing the character's core colors of silver and green to contrast Superman's red and blue to great effect. Action Comics issue 1053 was another home run for Philip Kennedy Johnson and his team, building on extremely interesting Warworld lore and opening up the story to some really fantastic side stories with all of these characters. I'm going to give this issue a 10 out of 10. Action Comics issue 1053 heads to Steelworks in the early morning, where John Henry is finally clocking off after a very long day and night. John walks through the quiet city, reminding himself that there wasn't a choice when it came to him staying late, since when inspiration hits, it's either use it or lose it. John sends Nat a concept model for his Steelworks Institute that he made from Kara's memory of an ancient school from Krypton. As he writes out his message to Nat, he finds himself surrounded by Metallo's grotesque creations, which call him a traitor to humanity. The cyborgs surround him as John suits up as Steel, but luckily the Super Family appear, protecting John Henry. Superman demands to know what Metallo did to these beings as Corbin speaks directly through one of his creations, revealing that he can see and hear the heroes well. Superman says that John has all but killed these men, but the villain thinks that Superman killed them when he hid his sister from him, demanding the hero give her back. Superman doesn't know what he's talking about as the villain blasts Superman with his eye lasers, deciding since Superman took one of his family members, he'll take one of the Men of Steel's. The cyborgs overwhelm Supergirl and suddenly explode, covering her with kryptonite. Connor saves Kara from the explosion, finding that kryptonite has gotten inside her bloodstream. Clark tells him to get her to Kelex fast, while Keenan gets the still living cyborg to Star Labs, since they might be able to help him. Superboy isn't too happy, reminding Superman that the man has no organs left and kryptonite is the only thing allowing him to breathe. Superman tells him that as long as the man is breathing, they will keep helping him. Superboy leaves with Supergirl as Keenan asks Superman if they really are risking their lives for these cyborgs who wanted to try and kill them. Superman tells the young hero that they always will, since if he dies, the man can never atone for what he did, and if he dies like this, it's all he'll ever be remembered as, and by saving him, they save the world. Keenan hopes that Clark is right, leaving with the cyborg. Superman meanwhile goes to visit Lex in prison, demanding to know what he did to Metallo. Lex admits that he did send Metallo to tear down Steelworks, but that was before he offered the hero Supercorp, since Steelworks is insignificant compared to the work Supercorp is doing. Superman tells the villain that Metallo just wasn't after Steelworks as he came for his family, accusing him of taking his sister, and he wants to know why John thought that. Lex knows that Superman is watching him to see if he's lying, so he says that if he had Superman's powers, he would be 10 times the Superman he is. Superman doesn't care for Lex's goading, wanting to know what is happening with Metallo since he's hearing voices now as well. Lex is slightly surprised by the villain hearing voices since he built built John's new body. Lex isn't ready to answer any more questions, but he knows that if Metallo is hearing voices while in that particular body, they need to find him quick. Metallo meanwhile is told by what he assumes is his sister Tracy that the ratio of titanium and promethium needs to be consistent throughout the spine of the body he is building. She thinks it would have gone quicker had he not murdered Luther's engineer, but John didn't like how the man kept staring at him, and he warned the man before he killed him. Tracy tells him to work faster since she needs to get out of this prison. John reveals to his sister that he can't tell what's real anymore, asking if he is changing. Tracy says that that is the war-world alchemy changing him, and his body is adapting to it. He just needs to work faster. He tells her that he's been thinking a lot about their father, wondering how things might have gone differently had he not brought that gun home, since just holding the gun while he was a child made him feel like a badass. But the more he held it, the more he felt like he was turning into a gun until nothing was left but the gun. Tracy goes quiet as John recognizes the jacket she is wearing in the hologram to be that of her father's. Tracy wonders if he was actually a good fit for this, wanting to show him the real Tracy. John is shown that his sister is suspended among hundreds of needles and tubing, told by the being pretending to be her that the real Tracy is in a place where she cannot see the sun, sustained only by wires and tubes, and she knows that she won't be getting out, and it's all because of John. John demands to know who the being is, but they refuse to say, wanting John to kill Superman and his whole family, and if he doesn't, they will kill Tracy with John's own hands. At the Kent apartment, Lois and Clark get ready for work as Lois tells Jimmy to get pictures of the Blue Earth protest happening in downtown right now. Clark tells John not to let Othel and Osel out of his sight, and if anything happens, all he has to do is shout. John asks his father if when things calm down, they can head back to the old house and play some Coney Ball. Clark would love to, thinking that his son was a bit too old for that game, and he wants to try it out in the coming weekend, wanting to show Osel and Othel it as well. The Kents leave as Othel watches the Blue Earthers protesting the War World refugees on TV, becoming visibly angry. John meanwhile heads to his room when Osel comes to see him, asking if John hates him and his sister. John is quick to say he doesn't, but the boy knows that thanks to his powers coming in, his hearing has grown sharp, and sometimes he thinks he can hear thoughts. Osel realizes the room they were in is John's old room, telling him that he is Superman's son, not him, and they meant no offense by staying there. John sees Osel's puzzle box, remembering his father making him one when he was a baby, and they were pretty amazing pieces of art, and they never opened the same way twice. He tells the boy that he didn't understand until later that the boxes were traditional Kryptonian artworks, making them extremely hard to make, and the one he had was probably the last in the universe. That is, until his father made one for Osel and Othel. He reveals to Osel that his family lost a lot of time together, and while he was okay, he knew his parents weren't. But seeing how they are with the Phalosian kids, it's making him feel like how his parents felt when he came back. He ensures the boy that none of this is his fault though, and they are family, and having more Koltari puzzle boxes in the world is a good thing. John wants to go see if Othel wants to play some Jenga, but Othel is missing. Suddenly on the TV, the news reports on a huge explosion at the protest as John and Osel see that Othel has attacked the protest and hurt people.